everybody. I'm Tom Passel.
Z Garcia, hello.
Sam Healy, what's up, y'all?
All right, for the first and hopefully only time this year, we're going to go back 10 years and take a look at 2007.
We've never done two of these in the same year.
We're only going to do it one?
What are you talking about?
Nothing.
Now, 2007, it's an interesting year because it's 10 years ago, but also Sam and I did a top 10 of 2007.
Oh, really?
Did you go back and look at your list?
No.
Well, I wrote
Didn't
your
even
list
know you did
down.
that.
That's
So
completely under the water as far
so
as under the bridge.
we'll see how much crossover you have. I bet there's a couple on here I know have to be higher on your list, and I bet there's a couple on your list that fell off. For me, interestingly enough, there was only a difference of 3.
Wow.
And my top 2 are the same top 2 from that year. And that doesn't happen very often because as the time goes by, games move around and change.
And things go out of print and back in print, and so that'll affect it also a little
when
bit.
did we do that?
In 2007.
10 years ago.
Wow.
Welcome to the list.
No wonder I don't remember it.
Well, I mean, the thing, there's a couple games that were not on the list, for at least for me, because I didn't play them until 2008.
Okay.
Because
Right.
games come out at Essen and stuff.
Right.
And
Wow, now I'm really...
Now
That's
he's
okay, I wrote it
worried.
down. I'll tell you
now
what.
he's worried.
I'm not worried. I'm really curious about what I put on it.
Well, I used my recent top 100 to help me put this list together, and 8 of the 10 are in my top 100 games. So clearly a pretty good year.
I think it's a good year, but it's not as good as, let's say, 2004, 2005, or 2012. It was a solid year.
Pretty solid to me.
Pretty solid. I mean, I came up with 15 pretty much really quick. I mean, this is a pretty good year.
All right, well, let's find out. Here we go.
Number 10.
All right, my number 10 is 10 Days in Asia by Out of the Box Games. This isn't on the list originally, I would imagine.
It is not.
Well, he
Yeah.
looked at you with that look like, huh?
I know, right?
Well, I was trying to. I didn't remember that one coming out in that year, but I
Yeah.
play a lot of the 10 days games, so I kind of put them in the first year.
Right, there you go. So 10 Days in Asia is my favorite iteration of the 10 Days in series. I enjoy it the most. I like the railroads that you use. I like how the different sea zones fit together and how you can use the different cards that way. It's just my favorite one. 10 Days in the USA just felt very
American.
bland. Just felt very bland because, I can walk from one state to the next. Well, yeah, but it's going to take you a lot longer than 10 days to walk from, unless you're like literally standing on the state line and you step over.
I'm not understanding his criticism, and then you're like Asia. It's the same thing.
I know, but there's other ways to get around the map. And I mean, you can do it that way, yes, but I usually don't. I try to use all of the different aspects of the
Are
traveling.
you saying seriously that you are trying to make the game thematic?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, I guess I like it. It's just
I mean, why travel in Asia if you're just, like, traveling the same way you would anywhere?
all right. all
Anyway,
right.
my number 10 is 10 Days in Asia from Out of Box Games.
My number 10, which was 10 years ago, is a game from Matt Gertz, and that's Hamburgum. Now, Matt Gertz was, in 2007, that guy was hot.
Delicious.
Hamburgers.
Yeah, okay.
Hamburger.
Yeah. Anyway, Matt Gertz, he was a very hot designer, but he did almost the same thing in every game called the Rondell, where you had a rondel in the middle and you would move pieces around it, and you could move a certain distance, and that's the action you could take. Some of the games I like, some of them I hate. Hamburgum I liked because I like the aspect of building churches. I like that theme a lot. And I also like the pieces, you had different wood and stone and little bells to build the church. And then it had a kind of a spreading a network around, and I don't know, it really resonated with me. Some of his games felt like work. Hamburgum felt like, hey, there's a purpose. I'm getting this beer, I'm selling this beer to get money now to build the church. I like that too.
Interesting.
That was the theme, and there was 3
Church
goods.
funded by beer.
Well, in Hamburgum, that's the way it goes, apparently.
all right, whatever
So
works.
my number 10, Hamburgum.
We built this church on Hoth and we...
All right. How much crossover do you guys think we're going to have, by the way?
We are going to have 1 game, 2 games that will be on everyone's list, and that's it.
Just 2?
That will be on 3 games, I'm sorry. We will have 3 games.
I think
that are on
there's going to be
everyone's list.
3 games on everyone's list, but I think there might be another one at least.
All right, go ahead.
All right, my number 10 will show up on both of these guys' lists in a bit. Kingsburg is my number 10.
It's
And
garbage.
And it makes its way onto the list. Honestly, it would have been bumped off perhaps if it wasn't for that expansion, which really elevates the game for me.
That's true. It's really good.
Kingsburg is a worker placement game where the workers are dice. You roll them, you get help from the court, gather goods, build buildings, fight off invaders, all sorts of good stuff. It's a very solid game. It's one that I think is being reprinted soon-ish. Is that not right?
Yeah, it's coming out this year with the expansion included.
There you go. So great.
We won't even have to say that anymore after a while.
Right.
Questionable graphic design, though.
I like it.
I guess I don't remember. But anyway, Kingsburg is a very good game. About 90 minutes, very engaging. It's one that is easy to get people into, I think, and it's a really fun game. So my number 10, Kingsburg, and we'll see it again in just a bit.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe.
Number 9.
My number 9 was not on the list 10 years ago, and I think that's because the second edition of this has really elevated it for me even more, and that's Archaeology, the card game. Really enjoy this one. It's a simple little game. I remember when it first came, it was unassuming. It came from Phil Walker Harding in Australia. He had made Archaeology the board game, which had bombed. And I knew that. I hadn't played it, but I knew that no one had really liked it. Not a card game of a board game that wasn't good. But just these trading the goods in the middle, collecting sets. Really, really like this one. The new Z-Man version that came out last year is really, really nicely done.
Yeah.
But I like the game even before that. So it's one of my all-time filler games to play quickly, and that's Archaeology, the card game.
Yeah, that would have been my 11, I think.
Oh, I thought that would be on your list, actually.
No, it's just barely outside. All right, my number 9 is a game from Stefan Feld, a one known for being quite mean to its players, and that is In the Year of the Dragon.
That's
in
on
the
my
Year
list.
Of the Dragon, yeah, right. You hate games that are mean to you, the game system
That are not
is...
cooperative.
That are not cooperative, sure. And this game is not cooperative, and it's an uphill battle the whole way. But I can take it for this game. It's a very engaging theme. It's a game in which you play over 12 months, 12 rounds, trying to overcome many difficulties. And the one who can do that the best is the winner. A heavy game, one where you are trying to puzzle everything together, like Stefan Feld games tend to force you to do. But it's one that's very engaging. It's thinky, it's interesting. Yeah, it can be punishing, but it's rewarding also. This one's coming back into print actually this year also.
I'm kind of surprised by this one because you're not a big fan of heavy Euro games usually.
I'm not. There's a few I like, and the others I find repetitive. So maybe this one is... This one
finds the others repetitive, Eric Lang.
Maybe... Oh, there we go. I got it. The Others is one of Eric Lang's games.
Wait for it.
Dude, I got it because he had to explain it to me.
Maybe this one is simply that well liked by me because it has the virtue of being first, you know? There's a lot of Euro games I feel like, okay, I've played this already. This one does not feel that way. Anyway, that's my number 9, In the Year of the Dragon by Stefan Feld.
Is that your number 9?
No.
Come on now.
That's my anti-9.
Is that better?
Yes.
All right, well, so what's your number 9?
My number 9 is a game about the bombing campaigns of the Royal Air Force in World War II called Duel in the Dark. It's a 2-player game where one player takes on the role of the RAF, flying into Germany and bombing a site and then flying back home. And then another person takes the role of the Germans who are trying to basically shoot that mission out of the sky before it can accomplish its deed. It's a programming game, which usually I don't like, but it really works well in this situation. There's a number of different things you have to take into account. Weather plays a factor. The decisions you make, where you go, where the Germans set up their anti-aircraft weaponry is also a big thing at the beginning of the game. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in it, and this one is, I think, criminally overlooked nowadays, unfortunately. It has great components, and it plays really well.
The problem with it is it looks like a war game. And
Yes.
it's not a war game.
That's
It's a
true.
deduction game, really.
Right.
This was not on your list 10 years ago, but I think it's because you hadn't played it.
Probably
It was
so.
my number 9, dropped off a little, it's like 11, 12, 13.
Right.
The only problem with the game I would find is that there's not a huge difference from game to game. You're always going to bomb. I mean, there's like several paths you can take and stuff, but it's. I think maybe after 20 plays,
Yeah,
you know,
that could
you're not
be
going
it.
to see a lot of new stuff. They added some expansions that never took off because they were like in bags. Like, here's more stuff.
Oh, they did some of those?
Yeah. And that was back when Z-Man was just, in 2007, Z-Man was publishing like 100 games to the point where the sequel to Duel in the Dark, Duel of the Giants,
Oh.
came out. The rules were not good to the point we couldn't understand it, and no one online ever played it.
Yep.
I don't even know who bought the game.
Nope.
So
Well, I think it's sitting on people's shelves because
no one's played it.
nobody's played it because you can't from the rule set that comes in the box, and I think people keep it just because of the models that come in it.
Well, if people are keeping it, I'm sure it's in bargain bins.
Yeah, but I mean, you get a lot of really neat looking tanks in that box, and that's probably why they're keeping it if they are.
All right, on to number 8.
Number 8.
My number 8 is the Game of the Year winner for the Spiel for that year, and that's Zularetto, a family-style game in which all the players are gathering animals, running their own zoo, putting up the animals in different pens, and putting little, kiosks up, managing their money. It's a very light game, really. It's a game based on a card game in Colorado. And the board game is barely more complex than that, but the visual appeal is very high in it. And the theme definitely comes through, whereas the card game was basically abstract. This theme of running a zoo is very engaging. I've taught this game to a lot of people. It's one that people get into. You know, you like the idea of gathering the animals and putting them on the trucks and then unloading, and sometimes they'll have a baby, and the whole thing is cute and engaging and attractive. And so I like this one a lot. They put out a ton of expansions for this one. This is one of those games that has had expansions
I
galore.
believe a mini expansion came out in 16.
Really?
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask you, do you like use any of these expansions?
I use a couple of them. I like the Petting Zoo expansion, which is very simple. It generates a little more money in the game, which can be a little tight. And then sometimes I'll use the job boards, which is also gives you a secret objective, something you want to score throughout the game more than others. It also helps a little bit with just making the choices for what truck you take a little more tough. But that's it. The game, the vanilla game is very solid, so you don't really need anything else. So that's Zularetto, my number 8.
Yeah, Zularetto just missed my list. I like it a lot. I agree with Z about this is one of the few times where the base game is fine. There's tons of expansions. Most of them are like mini, a tile here, some here.
Yeah.
They have the extra large zoo, and then there's the whole exotic animal zoo. And all that stuff's okay. They're not like they're bad, but you don't miss them when they're gone.
Right.
It
Well, it's a
works pretty
small
much.
design. It does not. There's not a lot of design space in there, you know. So every time they added something to it, if it was one of the bigger boxes, it did feel tacked on because there was not a lot of room to wiggle in there. You know.
That's true. They never did make the big box Zularetto.
Yeah, and the extra large one, the Zularetto XL. I never played that one. From everything I gather, it just made the game longer.
It does, really.
You know, which is nothing you need.
Wow.
All right.
All right, my number 8. That's where we are, right?
Yes.
Is a game that I think will show up on at least Tom's list, if not both of the
And I'll
others.
put it on my list.
But is called Tribune. Primus
Definitely.
Inter Pares. It's a really neat, I think, one of the few Euro-style games that are pretty thematic, in my opinion. And it's a cool worker placement type of game, and I really enjoyed playing it over the years. It's a little bit more, I guess for me at least, it's a little bit on the heavier side than I really would like to go more often than not. But I do enjoy the game a lot, and it has made my list here at number 8, Tribune, Primus Inter Pares.
Actually, it's my number 11.
That's the one from the D. Mocker designer, right?
Yes. And this was on neither of our lists, so I'm guessing we hadn't played it yet at that
Probably
point. I think
so.
it came out at Essen that year. Tribune, the one main problem I have with Tribune that keeps it from being number 1 is the scoring system is a little odd. there's two ways to play. You can play where you need to get certain things. First
Okay.
person to get them all wins.
Right.
Which can run into a problem because you can play that way and like halfway through the game you're like, oh, I can't win. I can't catch up to him. He has 3 more things than I do.
Right.
No matter what I do, I can't. So I normally play each of those things is worth a certain amount of points.
Okay.
And then whoever has the most points after a certain number of rounds
Which
wins.
is in the rules.
It's like a variant in the rules, yeah.
Okay.
The game comes with cards. And that works better, but even that feels slightly unsatisfying because the game was not necessarily designed that way.
Okay.
But it's still really cool. The idea of, it's one of those games that has some similarities to Crazy Chicken, where when you play more cards than someone else, you take control of a guild.
Okay.
However, if you play a higher total than them, you take control of the guild too. That's a cool concept I haven't seen in many other games. Like if I play an 8 and 9, and then he plays a 2, 3, 4, he has played more cards, so he wins. But then if I play an 8, 9, I beat him because mine is a higher total.
Huh.
That's a cool concept, and I wish that was used in another game.
Interesting.
All right, my number 8 is going to be one of the, no way this is a crossover on anyone else's list because these guys both hate it, but I can't believe it's 10 years old either, and that's Galaxy Trucker.
Oh, yes.
So 2007 was probably the year that CGE became much more widely recognized. They had already done Through the Ages, but that was a pretty low production at that point.
It's also very niche.
Right. Galaxy Trucker was something that no one had seen before, where you're playing tiles and then you're watching your ship blow up, and that's the part you hate because you don't like to just watch passively.
I love watching games.
That's why people watch our live feed, so back off. Anyway, Galaxy Trucker, maybe I'll play that one live next year when you guys are in bed, of course. But I love it because it's funny. Now, it's come out with 2, 3 pretty decent-sized expansions. You don't need any of them. The base game is still fine. In fact, I have to separate my expansions out because it's really hard to teach with the expansion stuff in. But just the concept of it's silly, it's entertaining. I'm going to do this one live at some point, just when.
Well, it's a very well-liked game still, even 10 years after.
Yeah.
The app has people
Okay,
really
yeah,
enjoy
there's that.
the
There's
app
that.
for it because CG did a really good job on it. It's one of those ones where you're like, wow, that's just excellently done. So Galaxy Trucker, only on my list at number 8, and it was actually number 3 when the year came out. It's dropped slightly because other games have moved around, but still
no.
very
It
enjoyable.
would have been my number 12,000.
Number 7.
All right, my number 7 is probably the smallest game on the list. Yeah. And this is a little filler card game from Friedemann Friese called Felix the Cat in the Sack. A bidding game in which you are... What's that?
It's going to be on his list.
You think so? Maybe, yeah. In Felix the Cat in the Sack, everyone has a hand of cards, and you are bidding to capture these cats and score them at the end of the game. But the very interesting twist here, the clever aspect of the game, is that you don't know what you're bidding on except for one card that you yourself added into the pot, face down, so no one knows what it is. So you have part of the information. And as people drop out of the bid, you reveal more information. And so the longer you stay in, the more you know. But you have to pay. You have to up your possible risk for that. And so you could walk away with a great group of cards for, a good amount of money, or you might go all in and then bomb and just absolutely, have an awful round. And it's that push your luck meets bidding that I find so intriguing. It's not something often done, and it really works in this game. Quick, really cute artwork, simple, tiny little box, so very portable. Really like it. One of my favorite fillers still. So my number 7 is Felix, the Cat in the Sack, and I would argue one of Friedemann Friese's better games too.
I really like it. It did not make my list. I like it, but I only put one filler in my top 10, and that was Archaeology. However, if we went back and snapshot 2007 and looked at the games that we all played, I would bet was your number 1 played game.
Well, yeah.
Because you went to that meetup group at the Camp Stanley and
Yes.
and you played it over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
So
Not
you're tired
because
of it?
I wanted to.
Oh, maybe he hates it now because of that.
That wasn't because of me. I think your family liked it.
I don't think so. because I don't ever remember owning the game. The only time I ever played the game is when we were with you.
Maybe it's just because it was just so easy to play. I mean, I like it. I don't love it as much as you do. I think it's an interesting concept, though. My number 7 is a game that was 5 in 2007, so pretty much the same, and that is 1960, The Making of a President. I like this one for a lot of reasons. It takes Twilight Struggle, which is a better game for sure, but it's also very inaccessible. It's very complex, a lot going on. 1960 is pretty straightforward. Get votes. And it takes place in an election that was fiercely contested, but doesn't really come close to... People aren't getting too upset over an election that happened 57 years ago.
Right.
Well, I'm sure some people will. But, you know, it's easier to get into the politics of it without people at the table getting mad. But it's a pretty straightforward look at the electoral system. And it was a fairly close election, so it just works really well. It doesn't take long. My wife will never play Twilight Struggle with me, but she did play 1960. So I like that. So,
Once.
well, yes, but
That still counts. Once counts.
counts. And she
once is still
she
good.
didn't leave hating the game, right? So 1960,
She ended,
The Making
she
of
ended
a
up
President.
leaving hating Tom, but not the game. You make me play this again.
All right, my number 7 is a game that I have talked about at length in a number of different places, and it is the only zombie game on the list, and that is Last Night on Earth.
Wow, your list is really different from 10 years ago.
Well, I know I didn't play Last Night on Earth back then.
No, you haven't played it until a few years ago,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm saying. So I know that's the reason behind that. But Last Night on Earth is one of my favorite zombie games that are what I would guess I kind of consider a modern era zombie game because of its campiness. It doesn't take itself too seriously. The cards are tongue-in-cheek. All of the different flavor texts that are on the cards, they're all tongue-in-cheek. It's just a very B-movie feeling to the game. Like if you're up too late and you can't go to sleep or something like that, and you turn on there's this zombie movie on the TV late at night, that's the feeling that it gets. It's not something like that is miniature heavy like Zombicide or anything like that. It's all about the campiness, the tongue-in-cheekness of B-movie zombie movies, and that's what I really enjoy about it. The different expansions that have come out for it have given different settings that you can play. Usually it's the basic stuff, get gas for the truck and then get to the truck and then get out of town before dawn happens or something like that, or it's go in and save the survivors and get out before all the zombies, or there's a number of different scenarios that come with the game, but they're all fun and they're all very campy. And so that is Last Night on Earth, my number 7.
I guess I agree with everything you said, except for I'm not sure I understand what you mean by it's a modern type.
It's not.
Zombie game.
It's not like it's in the future, and it's not in the medieval ages or anything like that.
Oh,
I
you
guess
mean
contemporary would be a better.
Got
better
it.
word.
So you meant it was like the new wave of zombie games.
No,
You said Zombicide. I'm like, that's newer. I got what you're saying now. Got it.
No, it's
like
just
in present time.
correct. Yes.
Oh, he clarified that.
Number 6.
My number 6 I had not played in 2007 because it came out at Spiel des Jahres and didn't get translated, and you need a translation for this one until the following year. And that's definitely another one that's not on either of these guys' lists, and that's Agricola. Now, I loved Agricola, and had I done this list in 2008, it would probably be number 1 or number 2. It has dropped tremendously because I will probably never play it again. I like Caverna that much better. The whole feeding your people thing was like, ooh, this is a new concept. Thanks, Stefan Feld. 10 years of feeding people. Uwe Rosenberg. Stefan Feld, you can take a fish shaking too. But anyhow.
Aw, don't shake your fist at Stefan Feld. But Uwe Rosenberg, yeah, stop it.
But Agricola was just mind-blowing. It came out in Essen. It was huge to the point where people were like frothing in America to get a hold of this.
Yeah.
Z-Man did a pre-order for it, and that blew up. And then it was the game everyone was talking about in 2008.
Definitely.
But it came out in 2007. It spawned a whole pile of games that kind of were similar to it. It's easily his most popular one. In 2016, Mayfair tried to bring it back. Another version of Agricola. I don't know how well that's doing.
The family one?
Well, they had a family version, but they also came out with the regular Agricola that they
did.
redid.
Okay.
So we'll see. There's still people who like it a lot. I haven't seen it being played that much. But in 2008, when I was at Origins, every other table seemed to be playing
It
Agricola.
is rare that a game comes along like that it seems to be on everyone's lips. You have the Dominions, and those, but Agricola definitely is in that camp. Everybody was talking about Agricola. Agricola.
Oh yeah, that first year where everyone said Agricola and people were like, that's not how it's pronounced. I didn't know, sir.
Oh, love nerd rage.
All right, my number 6 is a crossover with Mr. Garcia,
Oh, snap.
and it is the Spirit of Stars winner of this year, Zularedo. This is...
Is that your number 6?
Yes.
That was your number 6 in 2007.
Oh, really?
Ah.
Hey! Making up for some of my previous mess ups. Anyway, on this
You
list.
messed up.
On this list. Not really, but
You messed up.
I'm totally confused, but all right, go ahead.
I am too. My number 6, Zularedo, for everything that Z said. However, I think one of the main reasons that it stays in my mind and on my shelf is the simplicity of your turn. Your turn is quite simply placing an animal or taking a truck.
Right.
That's it. And you're trying, of course, to get the animals that you want into your pens, but at the same time, you might want to wait because another one might come out. And
Right.
it's that almost like a push your luck mechanic, but doesn't really feel that way. You're just kind of trying to bide your time and take the right truck at the right time. And sometimes you might even take a truck that you know somebody else really, really wants, just to keep them from scoring a mess of points, and then use those animals in your pen to try to start over or something like that. I like the farm, not the farm, but the barn. Sorry, I like the barn aspect where your extra animals go in there and they're going to cost you negative points unless you expand your zoo. I just really like this game a lot. I've pretty much always enjoyed it. There was a stint there where I didn't like Aquaretto. I didn't like it as much as Aquaretto, but I think Zularedo has come back and
Have you
has taken over.
flip-flopped on those two now?
I have, yeah. I think I like Zularedo better than Aquaretto now.
Huh.
It didn't used to be that way, but I think it is now.
So I remember you liking Aquaretto a lot.
Well,
yeah.
the reasoning is I mean, quite simply, I've brought Zularedo to the table probably twice as much
Really? Wow.
as
It's
Aquaretto.
definitely easier to teach people.
It is.
So,
All right.
Also, you have to explain why there's water on the grass. That still bugs me about Aquaretto.
I guess.
Oh, it really bugs
you
me.
gotta
it's a pool.
think inside the pool. All right, my number 6 is one that might be on Tom's list in a bit. This is Thebes. And I
Could be
know
on
it's
Sam's list.
definitely not on Sam's list. Thebes is an archaeology-themed game in which you are traveling, finding helpers, finding transportation, finding digging permits around the turn of the century, right? I would say 1901, I think, is when the game takes place.
Yeah, or the early 1900s.
Something
yeah,
like that.
something like that.
And then you are going to these different locations and digging at dig sites. And the thing that Sam hates is the digging mechanism, which is you put your hand in a bag and dig something out. One different bag per location. So the distribution in there is tied to what you would find there. And throughout the game, the more someone plunders a location, the less you should probably go there because it's been ransacked, right? There's less there to find now. And it's one of those games that really, for me, in my mind, I always find it to be one of those games that I can pull out and look at and go, I like where gaming is at now. Or I felt that way in 2007.
Oh, okay.
Where I could look at it and go, this game is pretty, it's bright, the components are fantastic, it's engaging, it has a story, it has a great theme, and it feels good to play. It just made me feel good about where gaming was going, you know? And I think all of that still holds true. If you're someone getting into gaming, I think this game is going to be pleasing to you on many different levels. And that's why I like it so much still. It also is the first one, if I'm not mistaken, that did that whole using time as your
No.
ability
Around the
to...
World in 80 Days.
Wasn't this
Around the World in
first?
80 Days.
Which one?
Around the World in 80 Days did it. I want to say that came
Around
out
the
first.
World in 80 Days.
Yeah.
No, that's after, I thought.
Not the reprint that just came out.
No, I know what you mean. The Michael Reynick game. Yeah, I thought that was after. Anyway, one of those two did it, but not that many games have done it.
Right.
Where, you use time to jump up on a track and do something, and then whoever's farthest back in time is whoever's next. So you could have multiple turns in a row. You might not go for a while if you take a really big turn. Very, very flowing turn structure. Really cool game. That is my number 6, Thebes.
Number 5.
My number 5 is a variant on an older game called Ticket to Ride, and this one is called Nordic Countries. I really enjoy Nordic Countries. I love the tightness of the map, and it also holds the moniker for one game that I played with my family where I actually threw components across the table, messing up the entire table, and that was the end of the game. So there's a little bit
I
of
would
a
have told anyone
shame.
that story.
There's a little bit of a shame aspect there, but
You sound ashamed when you said it.
I'm sure I did. I love the tightness of the map. I love that it's only a 3-player game because that works well with my family. I can't always drum up a 4th player, and a 5th player is even more difficult sometimes. So having a 3-player game that I can pull out with my family that is very simple, that they can engage with as well and be competitive is a cool thing for me. I also like the artwork on the cards, having all the different snow scenery in the game and all that kind of stuff. Really,
I definitely like
makes
that.
makes it.
I like using that train set and other ones
pop
just because.
really well. So I just really enjoy the game a lot. That's why it's on my list at number 5. Ticket to Ride, Nordic Countries.
Also not in your list, but again, I think they came out at Essen, and it was not available in America for a bit.
It was not available in America for a while, actually. Wasn't this one that they said was going to be only in a few countries in Europe?
They did. That's why I went out of my way
And then,
to get it,
for
too.
a long time, there was, no, this is not going to be available in the U.S. And then finally it was, but
Yeah.
it took a while. All right, my number 5, I'm up, yes?
You
Yes.
are.
My number 5 is a card game called Biblios, in which it's a set collection game with some bidding. I often compare it to For Sale, because it's a game that has 2 parts, 2 very distinct parts. In one part, the first part, you are collecting cards and making cards available to your opponents in a very cool sort of push your luck mechanism. In the second part, you are using the cards you have in your hand, hopefully some money in there as well, to auction off some that have been set aside throughout that drafting process. And that's it. That's the game. But it's such a tight design. Your choices are so important. You have to be so careful with your money. You have to consider a lot of little things that the whole package is somehow both simple and really engaging and very close scoring. And I like all of that. This game was originally just an indie printing from Finn's Games, Dr. Finn's Games. The version that I have now, the one that I think is still available, is from Yellow Games. And it has much nicer artwork, very nice components. And it's just a fantastic fill. It's one of my favorite games. Usually when I'm asked, tell me a good filler game, one of the ones my mind tends to go to is Biblios. Either because it's really, really great, or it's just one of the ones that's in the forefront of my mind, you know. And I think that's very much still true for me. Biblios is just fantastic.
It's definitely a game that came to the public slowly.
It did.
Because
it did.
Dr. Finn's games didn't hit that strong, so people were playing it. They're like, oh, this is good. And each progressive year, more people are talking about it. And finally, got that reprint.
Well, it had
And
really
just-
bad artwork originally also. It was like just public domain artwork.
Well, he's a designer, not a graphic designer.
Oh, yeah,
right?
sure, right. But anyway, I like that one very much. Excellent with 3 players especially.
All right, my number 5 is, Z already called it, just did it as number 6, and that's Thebes. Mm-hmm. That was my number... No, it wasn't on my list last year because I hadn't played it yet.
Okay.
Because it came out again at Essen. There's a lot of that
Right,
going on. And
right.
Thebes, I love the exploration. I love reaching in. I like the time thing. But I just really like that whole push your luck aspect to it. Do I want to spend 12 days digging? I get a lot more tiles that way, but man, I'm not going to get as many actions.
You won't go for a while,
And
right?
you also can only go to the dig site so many times.
And you could possibly not get anything at all for those 12 days.
You could, but your chances are up. And I like to play the odds. I feel it's the same as rolling dice and rolling poorly a whole bunch of times. Okay, anyhow, I really like these.
There's less action involved, though.
Brotherhood.
Yeah. Let's go digging together.
If you want to take Indiana Jones devoid of all of the fun, that's what Thebes is.
So it's like
Sure.
the Temple of Doom is what you're saying.
No. This game makes the Temple of Doom look like I don't
right,
know,
we need to move
a
on here.
festival of fun and enjoyment.
Number 4.
My number 4 is a game that we just got through playing
What?
on the 30-hour live gaming marathon, and it was during that 10
yeah.
to 4.
Oh, yeah.
Jamaica is
Making
my
me crazy.
number 4, and this is just a very light-hearted, family-weighted game of each person taking their pirate ship and racing around the island of Jamaica, trying to pick up loot on the way, attacking other ships and stealing loot from them and stealing treasures from them and that type of thing, and trying to get back to Port Royal first so that you can score as much points as possible. The person with the most points at the end of the game is the winner. And it's just a very simple game, very lighthearted, but the artwork is phenomenal. I mean, this game just jumps off the table. It has really streamlined, I think, mechanics. Just a lot of fun. I enjoyed it a lot. My number 4, Jamaica.
Also not on your list in 2007, but I think that's because we got it near the end of the year.
A lot of these games, like Thebes for sure, some of the other ones you mentioned, this was, in 2007, there was still that, it came out in Germany or it came out in Europe. It'll be out in 6 months, 8 months here.
Right.
Which is a problem that continues to go away now.
But Jamaica was even a different exception. When the company made Jamaica, it was their second game. Their first game about animals, I forget the name of it, they had made as a gift to the people who worked for them.
Animalia.
Animalia. And that one was reprinted a few years later. Jamaica, they didn't make very many copies at all.
Right.
They made it, they distributed it, and I was like, that's the end of it. And for a while, I had like a rare copy of Jamaica.
Right.
Then it got reprinted. We talked about it a lot in our show, I think, even before it was reprinted.
Sure.
And then it got reprinted. I'm not saying our show caused it to be reprinted, but we talked about it a lot. There was a groundswell for it, and now it did pretty well. In fact, we did this on our audio show, and the People's Choice #1 was Jamaica, which
Wow.
blew my mind because I knew it was popular, but I didn't think it would beat Agricola and a lot of the other games that came out over the course of the year.
Interesting.
More fun.
My number 4 was also played during the live marathon, and I thought it was the one Sam was about to say. I didn't play it, Sam did, and Z did, and that's Colosseum. That was my number 6 in 2007. This was back when every time Days of Wonder came out with the game, we were like, what is it? And so it came out, and I was like, oh, it's about fighting in the Colosseum. Oh, it's not, but it looks so cool. And then I played it, and I love the theme. I like the idea of putting the shows on. In fact, I don't think any other game has this exact theme.
Putting on the games in the Coliseum.
Well, it's not just games, it's shows and all sorts of things. It's not
Well,
just
I mean, the
gladiators.
game, they call it the game.
That's what they
Right.
called it, yeah.
Because most people think about, the Colosseum, that's where the gladiators fought, but there was horse racing. They filled it with water and had ship battles. There was
Right.
operas and stuff. And I really like that this game does that, but it's auction and trading, and the components are just unbelievable, to the point where Tasty Mitchell's reprinting it this year, and that would put fear in my heart as a company.
Right,
That
yeah.
you have to, because most of the time, when you reprint a game, you're like, oh, we're going to make it look so much better than the original.
That's kind of hard.
That's
When
gonna
you
be-
reprint the Days of Wonder game, you're in trouble.
You're biting off a lot.
I mean, it might happen. I'll wait till I see the final product before making that call, but I'm telling
Unless
you.
the pieces move themselves, I'm not sure.
Anyway, my number 4, Colosseum. I'm sure we'll see it again. Go ahead.
Yes, we will. It's definitely on my list. My number 4 is my second Stefan Feld game from this year, and this is Notre Dame. He was doing quite well by me during this
Yeah,
this
he
time.
hated people, though.
Tom loves this game.
You hate this one too because it also is mean?
Well, I hate this one because I hate rats.
Well, this came first, and then he thought, people liked the rats concept.
I think
How about
his-
if I make a game that's all mean all the time?
I think his fear of rats came from the first
I don't
time.
have a fear of rats, but yeah, no.
Well, this one's less mean than in the Year of the Dragon. I like it a little bit more. The idea here being the main thing that sticks out for me. Everything else is Euro-style mechanisms, collecting points, all of that stuff. But the thing that sticks out for me is a drafting that happens every round in the game, which I find very interesting. Where you just pretty straightforward drafting. You draw 3 cards from your own deck, keep one, pass a couple, get 2 more, pass the last, get a final. So you have 3 cards from 3 different players, and then you use those to manipulate the board, to gather goods and victory points and keep the rats at bay because they're spreading the plague and all of that stuff. It also has a really cool concept of...
Tom did not succeed in.
Huh?
Which Tom did not succeed in.
No, he didn't. He failed epically. The other cool aspect in it is the fact that the more you do something, the better it gets. And by that I mean if I play a card to put a cube here that gets victory points, I put a cube there, I get 1. Next time I do it, I put a cube there, I get 2. Because there's 2 victory points there. And so if you focus on something, you can get it to really work well for you at the neglect of other things you maybe need to be looking at.
That are burning down.
And I like that a lot. So my number 4, is Notre Dame from Stefan Feld, one of my favorite
What
games.
is it?
You probably changed it the last second.
No.
It was number 2.
No, these are all, the bottom few here are straight up from my top 100, so no.
Cool.
Number 3.
All right, number 3 for me, Z called this one already at the very beginning of number 10, and that was Kingsburg. It was originally number 4, moved up again. It probably would have dropped some, but that expansion really breathed new life into it.
Right.
I'm always hesitant to say that you need an expansion for a game, because Kingsburg is fun without the expansion. Definitely is. But once you play with that expansion, it's hard to go back. The expansion, the bigger board especially, it gives more variety to the game. And then when you add in the other little things where you're a little bit different than everybody else,
Right.
there's a lot of good stuff in expansion. But the concept of the game, which is roll dice and then use those dice as worker placement, I believe Kingsburg was the first. If not, it was pretty close to
Yeah,
being
I
one of the
think so.
first. And that's it was like, oh wow, I'm rolling dice and I'm using them in a different way.
Right.
So, Kingsburg, my number 3.
Is it me?
No, me.
No, it's him.
Oh, it's him.
No, it's you.
Okay.
It's me. No, you. Who?
My number 3 is a game I just showed a couple of weeks ago to Tom, actually, for the first time. And this is one of my absolute favorite abstract games called Czar. That's T.
You know,
Czar.
I was putting a list together and I saw Czar and I was like, he showed me a 10-year-old game.
The fact that you hadn't played a 10-year-old
Right.
game.
I was like,
with
I
you.
thought it was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was 10 years, like, oh, a little late on that one.
Like I said, just a pretty much a straightforward abstract game from the GIF project, Chris Berm's sort of magnum opus. And I like it a lot. It's my second favorite from all the ones he's made. It's quick, it's cutthroat, it's a game that does not spend any time setting you up to then bring you down. It's a game that from the very first turn is direct. It's very in your face, and I like that a lot in this one. It can take 10 minutes. It can take 15 minutes, and the tension is high right from the beginning. I like that very much. It's a good-looking game. These series of games are coming back into print right around now from Hook and Friends. And so I would recommend that if you like abstracts, you definitely check these out if you got into gaming after these were sort of at their height of popularity, which is probably stretching that word. But number 3 is Czar for me.
All right, my number 3 is a crossover with both of these other two fellas.
What?
And that is Kingsburg.
It was number 9 for you in 2007.
well.
Must be the expansion again, I bet.
Grows with age. Yeah, probably so. Yeah, the expansion for me is kind of a no-brainer at this point. If I will more often than not. Now, I have recently taught this game without the expansion just because I wanted to make sure that the people grasped the mechanics rather than having to worry about, making sure that their village was a little bit more different than somebody else's.
Well, I can't.
or-
I actually threw away my original boards. I only have the new boards.
You're a
mistakes
monster.
were made.
I've never felt sad about it.
So, it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't add that much more to it. I just didn't want them to get focused on making
But you
their...
hated it, is what you're saying.
No, I
without
didn't
the
hate
expansions.
it. No, I didn't hate it
Oh.
without the expansion. I still love the
6
game.
less.
it's a very solid game. I really enjoy it a lot. So everything that these two guys have already said, I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. But my number 3, Kingsburg.
Number 2.
My number 2 is one that I know is not going to make Sam's list, but it might be on Tom's. I'm not sure. And this is Race for the Galaxy, the game that was based on Puerto Rico and developed in conjunction kind of with San Juan, Puerto Rico's official card game. This one takes that concept of playing a role and everyone, including you, doing that thing that role allows you to do, and sets it in space, gives it a sci-fi theme, and changes that concept slightly where you are picking roles simultaneously. It's a thinky game. It's one that's got a bunch of symbology, which is why Sam doesn't like it. But it's a game that gives to me, for my money, gives me a lot of gameplay and a truncated timetable. And I like that a lot. There's a lot of game and a lot of choices here in 30 minutes. It's heady. It's tough to explain. I hate teaching it. If someone wants to play a game and I ask them, have you played Race? And they say no, I'm probably going to pull out San Juan if I really want to play that style of game. But the engagement level is very high, and especially, as I said, for how long the game is. So for me, Race for the Galaxy is still a crown jewel in any game collection, I would say, and it makes my number 2.
Wow. How can you put at number 2 a game that you hate teaching? How can that be?
Well, no, there's got like games
Teaching
I
a
like.
game
There's some
and
games I
playing
don't
a
like
game
teaching.
has nothing to do with one
I
another.
guess so.
I hate teaching, like, for example, Twilight Imperium. It's so much work. I like the game.
It's
I don't
so-
like teaching it.
Yeah, but it's so fun.
Well, yeah, it's fine. But like Race for the Galaxy, I really like playing with someone who already knows. That's actually a top 10 list I'm going to do one of these times. Games I really only want to
Games you
play
enjoy
with
but don't
experienced
like
players.
teaching?
No, I don't want to play
wanna
with people.
play, but I don't want to teach. That's a good one. Games I want to play, but I don't want to teach.
Okay.
Or like games I only want to play with people who are experienced at the game.
Or games I want to teach, but I don't want to play. No, that's not right.
I've actually done that before. Oh, sure, guys, I'll teach you that. Oh, I don't need to play this one.
Well, my number 2 actually probably falls in that category of I love playing it, but I don't necessarily like teaching it if it's like 11 o'clock at night. I don't like teaching the game at 11 o'clock at night when I'm like half asleep, because during the live gaming marathon, I actually asked Tom, hey, could you go ahead and just teach this for us, please?
And I was about to go to bed. I was like,
He was about to walk out there. I was like, ahem. Because there were, I think, 2 guys?
What was it?
Marty?
Coliseum. I think there were 2 guys that had never played the game before,
Right.
had no concept of how the game.
4. It went up by 2.
Okay, good. And so I really enjoy playing Coliseum, and I really enjoy everything about Coliseum. It's probably one of the few, well, it is definitely one of the few games that have a roll and move mechanic in it that I actually enjoy. And don't go there. You like this game too.
Not much.
Really?
I don't like Coliseum that much.
Why do we make him play it every time then?
Because he said he enjoys it. That's why. You don't. Yes, you did.
Coliseum's like a 6.
Oh,
You've been lying to us all these years.
No,
You
no,
said
I
you
don't-
liked buying
he
food.
doesn't schedule people for games that they don't like playing.
I don't hate the game, but I don't particularly enjoy it that much. It's like a middle of the road
You
Euro
just
game
hurt
for
me
me.
deep inside, Rick.
Sorry, you'll get over it.
Anyway, it's a really fun game. It has a great theme, just like Tom said. And it is slightly a deceptive theme because you think automatically gladiators, blood, guts, and that type of stuff, but that's not really what it is at all. It's more of a theatrical game that is all about putting on different shows in Rome, and I really do enjoy it. I don't do well at it. Hardly ever I do well at this game, but I do very much enjoy it. My number 2, Coliseum.
My number 2 and 1 are actually the exact same as they were in 2007. My
I
number
thought you were going
2,
to say they were the exact same game for a second. They were like, that's not right.
my number 2 is Age of Empires 3, which was a very, very deceptive title too, because it's like, oh, they're making a game about Age of Empires. What does that have to do with Age of Empires? Not much.
Not much.
It was
Age
actually
of Empires 3, The Age of Discovery.
right. Well, then they called
Glenn
it.
Drover's Age of Empires 3, The Age of Discovery was the whole title.
Or Glenn Drover's The Age of Empires 3 Discovery
Of
Ages.
a video game.
Actually,
Yes.
what is it called now? So I get the name right. It's called Glenn Drover's Empire's Age of Discovery. Okay, but it was originally
3.
called Age of Empires. They lost the license.
It was a video game license, right?
0.5.
Right, and they made the exact same game because it didn't have anything to do with it. But beyond that,
Right.
it's a worker placement game. And when it came out 10 years ago, there was not the plethora of worker placement games that there are today.
Right.
Yep.
It had different types of workers, which is still not that common.
That's not common at all still. Yeah.
And then it transformed from it goes from a worker placement to an area control game. I really like the combo. It's a really fun game. It has tons of miniatures, which again makes it look like it's a war game, and it's not.
Yeah.
This was the first game that Eagle had made up to this point that was like a really solid game. They'd made other decent games: War, Age of Imperialism, Attack.
of
Civil War games,
Mythology.
Age of Mythology. Well, yeah, but those games have not aged well.
No.
This one has. So, my number 2, Age of Empires.
Glenn Drover's
Empires, Age of Discovery.
Video gaming, Empires Gaming.
3.5.
Age of 3.0.
Got it.
And finally, number 1.
Here we go. I already know what everyone's number 1s are anyway. Actually, I don't know
do?
yours. I know it's his for sure.
I don't know Sam's, and I
he
don't
has not
know
said it
yours,
yet.
but I guess you would know yours. Go
Haven't
ahead.
said it in my head.
6.
That sucks. 16? That's the highest I've rolled in a while. Bring on all the monsters.
A tie,
Yeah,
so we
roll.
all re-roll.
No, we roll
Oh, I
on.
should have rolled 3 of these. Oh, well, whatever.
Roll another one. So you got 6. Go ahead, roll one more. 8.
Hey,
Oh, jeez, I got a 2.
I'm gonna roll a 1. You
Do it. Roll a
Roll a
1.
one.
Critical miss. Almost. You got a 3.
3.
All right, so
right.
Sam wins, barely.
We'll go down this way.
Hang on,
right.
before Z goes, let me see if I can guess what
What
his
could it
was.
possibly be? Oh.
Did any pandemic games come out in 2007?
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah, baby.
Wow.
It is.
I really don't know.
It has been mentioned
Ooh, it had by who? Him?
by, I don't know, you, I think. I wasn't listening.
Of course you
But
were.
you mentioned it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sam said it. You haven't said it.
Come
Come on, Sammy. Come on, Cletus.
Tribune?
No,
No. Okay, well, shut up then. You said Zulredo before I
ew.
did.
Yeah.
I don't think you like Last Night on Earth.
No.
I don't think you would put Ticket to Ride on the list.
No.
Jamaica.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, Jamaica's your number 1?
Jamaica's my number 1
Wow.
game ever
No, it's not.
on in 2007's list of 2007 games.
No,
Jamaica.
The 2007 games. The top
No,
2007
Jamaica.
games from.
Jamaica is a lot like Thebes. It's a game that I looked at and thought, gaming where it's at right now is amazing. It's pretty, really pretty. It's simple. It's engaging. Just about anybody can play it. It's got some conflict, but not too much conflict. It's got treasures and a great theme and a race aspect to it and gathering loot and all of these things make my brain go like a little kid. And that's what I like about it so much. It puts me in that world of feeling like a pirate on the high seas gathering gold. And I like that. And this game does not overcomplicate or burden your enjoyment of that with these so-called pesky rules that some games try to put in there. So that's why it's so high for me. I really enjoy the feeling of playing this game.
Wow.
Jamaica's awesome.
All right, that's my
So
number
that's my
1.
number 1. Your number 1, Tom, is Cosmic.
One of the Cosmic Encounter expansions.
I don't know what came
No,
out.
you already mentioned it. You said
I
it was
did.
going to be on my list.
Oh, okay. Hold up. Wait a minute. Thebes?
I already had Thieves.
Oh,
He does not pay attention.
I don't know.
All right, Race for the Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
Even though I prefer Roll for the Galaxy to the 2, Race for the Galaxy, I still remember. There's some moments in gaming I remember. I remember buying Race for the Galaxy at a Toys R Us in Korea. On the way home, I read the rules, and I was like, I gotta play this now. I'm like, Laura, come on. And sat down, and I was like, what do all these symbols mean? I'm like, we'll make it through. We got through, and she's like, yeah, I don't like that very much. I'm like, find someone else to play with.
Wait, you read the rules and drove at the same time?
I was on the subway.
Oh, okay.
You were driving a subway back then? I don't
What
think
is
that's
that?
how you drive
Why would a subway do
I
this?
think
No,
it's
I'm saying if you were driving and you were reading the rules. Okay. But I love
wanna
Race
be
for the
on a subway
Galaxy.
car that he's
I
driving.
love it with 2 players. I agree with Z. If someone's like, hey, can you teach me Race for the Galaxy? I'm like,
Nope.
I could, but
Let's play this instead.
let's try Roll for the Galaxy. It's a great game. No, I would teach it to people, but I would be very cautious who I play to. It's a very thinking game.
Yeah.
I still remember hearing the Secret Cabal podcast where the guy was like, it's all luck. And I was like, oh my goodness, I would crush you if you thought it was all luck. If you think it's all luck, I remember there was a computer program that you could play against. I don't know if it's still on the internet. And you go play against a computer and you lose every time until you really get good at the game. That's not luck.
But then again, people could make the argument that, the card draws there are being biased. I mean, it's hard
I
to.
guess.
But I agree with you. It's you can learn to be good at that game.
Yes.
I think you should go back and play whoever said that and see who actually won.
Yeah.
Because you could probably definitely make that happen.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Of course, then if you lose, though.
That's what I would be waiting for.
You gotta toughen up,
I'd be
man.
waiting there with my
Start
camera.
training. You need to start
Get
training.
that face.
See, I don't know what your number
bewilderment.
1 is now.
What?
And I'll tell you why, because they're...
You said Kingsburg already.
You haven't said your number 1 or your number 2 from 2007, and I thought they would both be on your list. Here, I'll show them to Z.
What
Which
are
one do
they?
you think is his number 1?
Oh boy, these are not
He
both
must
on the
have
list.
missed one of these.
He had to have. I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah, me too. Okay. We both agree that it's Tannhauser.
That is correct. Tannhäuser.
Well, here's the one that we thought you would have it. That was Fire and Axe.
Huh. No, I did miss that one then, I guess.
Oh, okay, good. The world's still right then.
Yeah. Fire and Axe, where would that fall? It definitely would shift Ticket to Ride and up.
There you go. Correct.
So that would definitely be in my top 5.
I need to see an editing while this
Easily.
is going on. You're like, you
Easily.
see numbers moving around.
no, that's not gonna happen.
All right.
Yeah, Fire. I just missed it. That's.
Well, it's
I
quite
did not-
possible this printing of it was Viking Fury.
In 2007.
Right. Fire and Axe was not out. It wasn't called that. It was Viking Fury from the
then
Ragnar brothers.
That's why I.
So that
wouldn't-
technically,
If
we can,
that's possible.
as a
If that-
technicality, we can say Fire and Axe was not out.
That's possible. Okay, so go ahead. So what do you got for...
Tannhäuser. Tannhäuser is.
Hauser.
No, it's Häuser. That's how you pronounce it.
Yeah,
You
Häuser.
know this. You're trolling me. Stop it.
Hauser.
Häuser.
Goodness.
Anyway, I still contest that this probably has one of the most innovative line of sight mechanisms that have ever been created, and Fantasy Flight let it die criminally because
Go to jail, Mr. Peterson!
Yes,
Oh
exactly.
my goodness.
The different colors of the circles that are on the board determine where you can interact with the board, where you can see in the board. There isn't any of this drawing a line from one center of the circle to another. You don't
Hallelujah.
have to do
I have
any
to say,
of
I
that.
think every time I teach Sam a new game that has shooting at all, his first question is always like, how does line of sight work?
Exactly. Is it something that they just tacked on at the end of the design, or did they actually incorporate the line of sight ruling into the design, which is exactly what Tannhäuser did, and it has simply, legitimately been just forgotten. Fantasy Flight is not supporting the game anymore, but there is a huge community, well, relatively speaking, I guess, of people, shut up, of people online that still play the game, that still, you can still get stuff. Aftermarket is probably a little bit expensive, but
Right.
you can still pick up things. I see every once in a while, and I hear tell of people finding copies of this still in stores around the country.
It's like, I had a story.
Yeah, I mean, no,
Oh,
it's,
that's cool to be able to find a copy of something that's
Yeah.
been out of print.
Now, the
in
problem-
some dusty shop somewhere. That's great.
yeah.
I like
Now
that.
the problem though is that they did come out with a second edition rules
Oh,
that
shoot.
supposedly fixed things that were in the original. I never saw the problem to begin with. I think the original rule set plays fine for casual play. If you're really going to get into it, yeah, you'll need to pick up the second edition rules, but it's not really that huge of a deal for my opinion. But anyway, it's a first-person. I don't know if it's a first-person shooter game. I think it is.
It's a corridor shooter. That's what it's called.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Not a video game thing. It's a board game thing.
You just made that up.
He
A
did.
corridor shooter. You haven't heard that?
Shut up, man. Anyway,
Man, back me up, internet.
It's set in an alternate universe back in the early 40s, where you are the Americans versus the supernaturally charged Germans with some supernatural Russians thrown in there as well. And there's a whole bunch. Man, this guy, he gives me crap all day long. But anyway, it is kind of like a Hellboy universe that gives you a good idea of what we're talking about. And it's a really fun game. You can play it capture the flag. You can play it where you just respawn and you have to get a certain number of points. There's just a number of different modes that you can play. Really enjoy the game a lot. Has pre-painted miniatures that are actually very well done as well. So Tannhäuser, even though it's not readily available, if you find a copy and you enjoy these kinds of games, you will be doing yourself a disservice if you don't pick it up.
All right. Let's see games that Sam did not have his list from 2007.
Wow, here we go.
Well, no. I'm just like number 3 from 2010 was Dust, and I'm thinking that you probably are. It was also on my list.
I'm more of a Dust Tactics.
Like Dust, the original Dust game.
Yeah, the one that's more like Risk.
The game was not that good, unfortunately.
It was good, and we enjoyed it, but I feel like I've evolved and want to play shorter games. It was pretty long. I really liked it. It had Dust, the short game, which was like 4 hours, and then the epic game. We're like, nope. You also had Oregon.
That was on my short list.
Right. And Phoenicia.
Also on my
your
short list.
Right. So, and Tide of Iron. That one, I thought you might make it.
That one, no. It
been
hasn't.
beat up?
Yeah, it's been too beat up. Now, that one actually has a story, much like yours, where you found Race for the Galaxy in Korea.
Yeah, I paid full price for mine now.
I did it.
Hey, here we go.
I paid $8 for my
They
big
paid him to
coffin
take
box of Tide of Iron at a Toys R Us in Korea. Had everything in it. Was a pristine. The box was a little mangled, and that's why it was.
It was like being a used copy, you mean?
No, it wasn't used. It was like a ding and dent type thing. But I mean, this is like ding and dent. No, it looked like it went partially through a trash compactor, and the box.
And everything was okay.
Everything inside was fine. Just the box. I did a little duct tape magic on it, and I still. I don't have it now. I got rid of it just a couple years ago, but because I never play it anymore.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, that's why it's not on the list.
Things that fell off my list, Duel in the Dark was there, Dust and Tide of Iron also fell off my list. So, but I'm still pretty close to where the list was. The only exception were the things that came out of Essen. And I really am glad that we are now in an era where games are being released simultaneously around the world.
Yeah, that's a big takeaway for me is these games are great. The games that we put out now versus these games, there's probably more blurring of the lines between what's a Euro and what's an American-style game. Whereas in 2007, we were still starting to blur those lines. But that release concept of something coming out in Europe and you might not see it at all, or you might not see it for 8 months,
Yeah.
that's largely going away, really.
Tell us what your favorite games are from 2007. We have 10 years to look back. Well, how good of a year was it? Do you think it was a great year? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
Z Garcia, thank you, everybody.
And I'm Sam Healy.